Chapter 9 of It Happened in Egypt. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. It Happened in Egypt by Charles Norris Williamson and Alice Muriel Williamson. Chapter 9. What Happened When My Back Was Turned. 3 letters from me, brought out by the pilot! One I had expected from Anthony, but my heart gave a pound as I recognized Brigit's handwriting, not seen for years, and instinct told me that the third was from Monny Gilder. My one thought for the last 2 days, steaming back from the Piraeus to Alexandria, had been that I was drawing nearer to Cairo, and to those whose doings in my absence pulled at my curiosity and keyed my interest to the breaking point. But if you think that I tore open those envelopes and greedily absorbed their contents the moment they were put into my hands, you have never been a conductor or even an observant passenger on a pleasure yacht. When the letters arrived I was engaged in persuading breakfast lingerers, they of the eggs and bacon habit who ought never to leave their peaceful English homes, that it would give them more real pleasure to be the first in the shore boats than the last at the table. Then to get them into the boats, then to hypnotize Lady Biddell and Mrs. Harlow into the belief that they would not, could not, be seasick on the dancing waves which bobbed us up and down. No time to think of the letters, much less to feel the strangeness of fate which brought me back in such queer circumstances to the port I had entered on the Laconia 8 days ago. As soon as we get on shore, I soothed my gnawing impatience, I'll steal a minute somehow. But each moment was so conspicuously labelled that I could not be a thief of time, my time, which was my charge's time, bought and paid for by Sir Marcus Lark. This was not the first occasion on which I'd heard the clanking of my chains, for although I flattered myself that I was a popular success, popularity had penalties. On the night of the lecture I had used the passengers. Since then they had used me. Old ladies appealed to me on questions of etiquette, health or religion, and retailed my answers, not always correctly. Girls asked my advice about keeping up flirtations, and men wanted my help in getting out of them. I was expected to spout pages of Strabo or Pliny at an instant's notice. I must know why Plato went to Egypt, or how long he stayed, and be umpire between American and British bridge players. I must be able to explain the true meaning and age of the Sphinx, invent new deck games, and show those who hadn't learned how to dance the tango. But with those 3 letters burning over my heart, the duties of conductor became infuriating. It was an awful day, for what was Pompey's Pillar to me while I remained ignorant of my friends' adventures? As I discoursed, more or less learnedly, about Diocletian and Ptolemy's plot to drown Pompey in the Nile, something inside was asking, has Anthony fallen in love with Monny Gilder? What scrapes has that blessed girl got into? Has anything happened to worry Biddy? Even that nameless but incomparable tomb on the hill of Qom el Shakufa could not distract my thoughts from the sealed envelopes, and 3 very modern handwritings came obstinately between my eyes and the matchless wall paintings. Paintings as fresh in their underground hiding place as if finished yesterday instead of in days when it was dowdy to be pagan, fashionable to be Christian. Corcoran, as a soldier, had to guide a band to Aboukir and chat about Nelson, point out the medieval fort of Kait Bey, and dash with hired motors to Adjemi, where Napoleon landed. Kruger took a few studious pilgrims to that unspoiled Oriental Nile town where the Rosetta Stone gave the secrets of ancient Egypt to the world. It was mine to pilot the frivolous lot, to escort them in carriages round the Italian-looking city when they had absorbed its 2 chief sights, to give them a glimpse of the museum, and to let them see the beauty and fashion of Alexandria driving out to San Stefano in the late afternoon. Still, I had no chance to read my letters, but, thought I at the hotel, now at last it has come. Not at all. People's trunks were missing or in the wrong rooms. It was I who had to soothe alarms and calm rising storms. It was I who must assure Mrs. Harlow that her room was really preferable to that of Lady Biddell, and Lady Biddell that she, and not Miss Hassett Bean, had the best in the hotel. Still, I had 10 minutes to dress for dinner. Like Mr. Gladstone I could do it in 5, and have 5 left for my letters. But hardly had I slipped a paper knife under the flap of Monty's envelope, I should have felt a vandal to tear it, when one of the hotel managers knocked at my door. A gentleman was being very angry in the dining room. He insisted on seeing me. He said he had been Lord Mayor of London, and ought to have a window table. All these were previously engaged. What was to be done? Would I kindly come at once? I persuaded Sir John that window tables were the least desirable, owing to draughts, and returning to my room, I had 4 minutes to dress or risk further rows. After dinner Miss Hassett Bean burst into tears because she was alone in the world owing to the marmoset's death from sea-sickness, and now that she was growing old nobody cared to talk to her. I argued that people were shy because she was more important than they, and had a reputation for satire. It took half an hour for the lady's nose to go from red to pink (I think she had papier poudre in her handkerchief), and then I was obliged to walk on the beach with Miss Enid Biddle to keep Mr. Watts from proposing. As Snell relieved me from sentry duty, I was called by Kruger to discuss certain details of next morning's start for Cairo, and at midnight, when I crawled to my room a shattered wreck, the letters were still unread. "I'm incapable of caring now," I groaned, "what has happened to any of them. If an earthquake has swallowed up our mountain, and Anthony's married Monny, and Bridget's been abducted, or vice versa, and Miss Guest has gone off with the jewels, it will leave me calm." That was the spirit in which I tossed up a coin to see which letter to read first. Heads, Monny's; tails, Anthony's; but the penny rolled away, far under the bed where collar buttons go, and so I opened Biddy's. She began: "My dear good Duffer, for any sake hurry back. Make an excuse to leave your pilgrims the minute you get this, and take the first train to Cairo. Surely the late conductor can be your understudy, and trot the people round Alexandria for a day? We need you more than they do. I picture you reading this early in the morning, with Alexandria still in the distance, for you said you'd arranged to have letters come out to the yacht by the pilot. I shall expect a telegram saying by what train you'll arrive here in the afternoon. You'll understand when I've told you everything, why it's necessary for you to hurry. We have done and seen so many things, it seems years instead of days since you left us in the care of that handsome Hadji of yours. I wonder if really you didn't suspect that I guessed who he was, or did you suspect and didn't care? I caught the look in your eyes, when you first saw him standing under the terrace at Shepherd's, and then when the name Antoun Effendi came up in the conversation, I put two and two together. Mrs. East guesses also. I don't know if she did from the first, but she does now. It isn't a question of guessing with either of us really, it's a certainty. Not that she said anything to me or I to her. That is the malady of us all since you went. We are boiling with secret thoughts, and keeping them to ourselves, which is bad for us and for each other in the long run. I haven't told Monny that the Egyptian Prince, as Rachel Guest has nicknamed him, is your friend Captain Anthony Fenton playing some deep game, partly connected with us, partly connected with a secret of his and yours. The secret you said was a dusty one in which women would not be interested. I haven't told her because I don't want her to know. She is always talking and thinking about him, and is vexed with herself for doing so. She tries to stop, but can't. If she knew who he was, she wouldn't try to stop. She'd let herself go, and feel she was living in a beautiful romance. So she is living in a romance, but I want you to be the hero of it, not your Anthony Fenton. That's why I don't open her eyes to the game that's going on. The man is a perfect devil. Not a bad devil, but a wild devil. Mrs. East doesn't tell Monny that Antoun is Anthony with an H, because she is enjoying the thought that she alone knows the wonderful truth. She imagines that she is in love with him. She believes fate has brought them together, that he is a reincarnation, as she is, and that they ought to belong to each other. Well, let them. She isn't more than 6 or 7 years older than he, and she's rich, though poor compared to Monny, of course, and every day she grows handsomer. So does Monny. As for Rachel Guest, but she is in another part of my story. Yet no, come to think of it, I'll bring her in now, because if it weren't for developments concerning that young woman, I might be able to wait one more day without begging you to come to us. She is taking Monny away from me, and something odd is going on, I can't make out what. Anyhow, that horrid Bedr el Gemály is in it, and there's to be a climax, I'm sure, to-morrow night. You'll get this letter to-morrow morning, for I'm writing it early, with my hair down my back, and my coffee not ordered, though I'm starving. We've left Shepherd's because Monny wanted to live for a few days in a hotel close to the Nile, and we were all pleased with the plan, for this was once a palace of Khedive Ismail, and his furniture's still in it, the wildest mixture of orientalized French taste. There's a garden, with paths of vermilion sand brought from somewhere in the desert.